All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a couple of weeks, but I just want to do a quick report on what I'm looking at as far as the markets are concerned, what I'm going to be looking at while trading. I've been trading SPY options, because it's the entire, market basically. So there's definitive moves, even though the moves have been very wild. Friday was extremely wild. That has been what I've been trading, but I do look at the news. I look at just the general markets and what they're doing. So we're just going to take a look at that and what's coming up this week. We do have a shorter trading week on Friday. The market is going to be closed for Good Friday, but even so, the unemployment report still comes out. Now, that's different from the jobless claims on Thursday. We still have those coming out, but the unemployment report is due on Friday, where basically a gradual recovery is expected. We'll talk more about that towards the end. We also have the manufacturing PMI surveys coming out. The Purchasing Managers Index surveys are coming out. I'm not actually too familiar with what they are or what they actually mean, but I have been reading up on that. And the big news is the OPEC meeting. All right, the OPEC meeting, they're going to be discussing oil production for May. All right, the production plan for May and onward. And that is going to be on Thursday, April 1st. Now, the futures, the oil futures, appear to be consolidating, in my opinion, right over a daily demand area. And if it stays above the, if crude stays above $60.70, then I'm going to be bullish on oil going into this week. Now, that being said, first of all, the way I sort of look at the futures on TD Ameritrade, it's /CL. I think it stands for like crude, light sweet crude or something. But that's how I sort of track the oil markets. But you can always just Google oil futures if you can't find it on your trading platform. But this OPEC meeting is very important because they may actually vote against hiking up production, right? There's a couple of reasons why they might do this. Number one, we have lockdowns in Europe with the resurgence of the illness. There are more lockdowns in Europe, so my heart goes out to everybody watching from Europe. Stay safe out there and just try to get through this next stage, right? But also we have an event in the Suez Canal. I'm sure many of you have seen this, but there's a boat stuck in one of the main sort of arteries for global supply right now. There's a boat stuck in the Suez Canal. And this is drama that is ongoing. Okay, there's ships stuck on either side of the canal because of this boat. They're saying it's going to take perhaps a week or more to remove the boat. But that being said, these are some of the reasons why OPEC is probably going to vote for production cuts. Now, with the Suez Canal drama, that canal actually, 10%, it's a like I said, it's a main artery, all right, in the global supply chain. 10% of global shipping happens to pass through there. So this may not only affect the oil markets, but other markets as well. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking sort of like electronics or computer chips, companies like Intel, AMD, Qualcomm, stuff like that could definitely be affected. The price of these stocks, the price in these markets could be affected by the drama that we're seeing with this ship stuck in the canal. But going back to oil and how it's going to be affected by the canal, the ship being stuck in the canal. If West Texas Intermediate or WTI or crude, Brent crude, and I didn't know this up until a couple of months ago, but the West Texas Intermediate is like the New York American oil standard. Crude is more of the London standard or the global standard for oil prices. But nevertheless, we kind of look at both of them. But if WTI or crude lose any more, we're technically, if they're down any more this week, we're technically going to be in a bear market. And I'll tell you why. Because we've lost already 10% from the highs, right? For almost, 3 or 4 months nonstop, the oil markets were surging. They were in a bull market. and then we pulled back the last couple of weeks. Last week, I think we dropped like 8%. The week before that, we lost a couple of percentage points. So since the highs in March, early March, late February, we have lost 10%. So if we lose any more, we're technically going to be in bearish territory. But there's a couple of ways that this OPEC meeting and oil prices could play out. Number one, if they do vote to cut production, and it's going to be mainly the Saudis who are going to be influencing this. They have a lot of power in OPEC. If they vote to cut production, it could send oil prices soaring, right? Because there's less supply. You got to factor in the demand. But it's also possible that the oil markets are sort of growing a tolerance to these type of production cut stunts, right? It's quite possible that the oil markets already have this potential production cut priced in. Think of it similar to, I guess the comparison I would make is, the Federal Reserve with their Federal Reserve liquidity injections into our stock markets. A lot of people think that the stock markets eventually are going to grow a tolerance to that, what Peter Schiff calls monetary heroin, and that, the markets will eventually just stop responding to liquidity injections if they haven't, already stopped responding. So similar to that kind of type of scenario, it's possible that the oil markets are growing more tolerant to production cuts, if they are, in a way trying to manipulate the supply, manipulate the price. So we'll just have to see how this plays out. Let me know your predictions down below in the comments for what oil prices are going to look like the next couple of weeks. But yeah, we'll just have to see how that plays out. That's what I'm looking at. I might try to play some short-term option plays on maybe ExxonMobil or XLE. But we'll have to see how that goes. Now, going to the general stock markets, futures are flat for the S&P 500. S&P 500 had a record close on Friday. Like I said, Friday was absolutely insane. I expect possibly, well, I'll say this. It's possible we'll have a couple of down days, especially because we have the short week ahead. Also, the Dow is down right now. The futures are down, and NASDAQ is pretty much flat like the S&P 500. So, with a gain of 1.7%, and most of it in the last hour of trading for the SPY last week, don't be surprised if we see a pullback the next couple of days. We're right there at the all-time high resistance level. So if that supply zone does hold up, we'll probably pull back, who knows, maybe back down to 386, 388, 380. Some people think 370s, right, if you're super bearish. But I will say this, being eternally bearish in these markets is very, very dangerous. It's very hard to go short or play the short side in these markets. So just be aware of that. The last thing I'll talk about here is the updates we're expecting updates on Biden's infrastructure plan. He is going to Pittsburgh on Wednesday, I believe, to possibly unveil or at least release some of the details of this infrastructure plan. It's expected to be about $3 trillion. It should be entertaining at least, right? The last time Biden spoke to the press last week, I thought it was hilarious, the tit for tat. It's almost as entertaining. It's probably in some ways even more entertaining than Trump going tit for tat with the MSN. But his press secretary, Psaki, I think is her name, she basically says that Biden has an infrastructure plan, and he also has a health and family plan. All right, so where are we going to come up with the money for all this spending? I think you and I both know. So, like I said, stock market is closed on Friday, but even so, the unemployment report comes out. It's still expected to come out. We're expected to have about 630,000 new jobs are expected for the month of March. That's not to be confused with the jobless claim numbers that come out on Thursday. Now, last week was the lowest number. I think it was 600 and something thousand. Lowest number of for the jobless claims in months, since the start of this whole, thing last year in March. I'm trying to be careful with my wording here. So that is good news, right? Even if these numbers are, manipulated, which they probably are, but that is good news to see the jobless claim numbers coming down. The Dow Jones also says that unemployment will probably fall from 6.2% to about 6%, right? But a couple of weeks ago, I think it was Fed Chairman Jerome Powell who said the unemployment number could be more like 10%, hypothetically. So before I wrap this up, yes, we do have a name change. The name of the channel is Millennial Trades. That's not to exclude any other generation, but I thought Millennial Trades was fitting. It's just a place where, hopefully you can find some educational value, and I can also learn as well, and we can build a community, as new traders, as new investors, as people just, new spectators even, looking at these markets and figuring out where they're going and figuring out how to make money from them. So that is my sort of mission on this channel, and I want to thank everybody for subscribing. Thank you to the new subscribers out there, and with that, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your Sunday evening. As always, God bless.